Good evening, everybody. Our town clerk has informed me that we have a quorum, so the meeting is now called to order. I'm Steve Cole, and I'm your moderator. Can everyone hear me well? Good, good. Suzanne Fisher, our town clerk, will read the return of the warrant.
Good evening and welcome. The annual town meeting warrant of the town of Eastham. We're meeting at 7 p.m. on May 2nd, 2016. The polls for the next election will be Tuesday, May 17th at 7 p.m. and may close at 8 p.m. Voting takes place at the Eastham Town Hall. The annual town meeting warrant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Barnstable County, to the Constable of the Town of Eastham in the County of Barnstable. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the said town qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to meet at the Nauset Regional High School Gymnasium, Monday, the second day of May 2016 at 7 in the evening. Then and there to act on the following articles in this warrant, and to meet in the Eastham Town Hall at 7 a.m. the 17th day of May next, then and there to elect the following town officers: Board of Selectmen, Library Trustee, Elementary School Committee, Housing Authority, Nauset Regional School Committee. There will be one question on the ballot. You are directed to serve this warrant by posting attested copies hereof at the post office in Eastham and North Eastham, 14 days at least before the date of holding said meeting. Hereof, fail not and make due return of this warrant and your doing thereon to the town clerk at the time and place of holding said meeting. Given under our hands and seals this 4th day of April in the year of our Lord 2016. Signed by the Board of Selectmen. Greetings. In pursuant of the conditions of the foregoing warrant, I have posted attested copies, one each at the post office in Eastham and North Eastham, 14 days before time of said meeting. Signed by the Constable Kenneth Roderick.
Would everyone who is able please stand? For our Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing when we are done. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So you may have noticed a well-dressed group of young people standing right in front of me. I am so pleased and honored to introduce the Honors Chorus of the Nauset Regional High School under the direction of Tom Farris. These exceptionally talented students will now sing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there.
Thank you. So you all know the saying, that's a hard act to follow. That's a hard act to follow. Okay, we're ready to begin the business part of our meeting. If you haven't already, please silence your cell phones and any other similar technology, and turn off any wireless on your phone or tablet. This will be a big help to the wireless electronic voting system. And for your information, the school's wireless system is shut off in the gym. We have a large screen that will display spoken words into text for the hearing impaired. It will be to my left. On my far right is the Board of Selectmen. Will you each please introduce yourselves, starting with Selectman O'Shea, and will the voters please let us know if the sound from their microphones reaches you well enough?
Bill O'Shea, good evening.
Wally Adams.
Linda Burr.
John Knight.
Elizabeth Gorin.
And on my left is the Finance Committee. Will you each please introduce yourselves, starting with John Knox? And again, will the voters please let us know if you're not able to hear well?
John Knox.
Jerry Searsail. Peter Wade.
Russ French.
Judy Cannon.
Fred Guidi.
Amy Ekman.
Art Otorino.
Mike Hackworth.
Thank you. And on my right, next to the Board of Selectmen, is our Town Administrator, Sheila Vanderhoff. And nearest to me on my right is our town's legal counsel, John Giorgio. And also notice around the gymnasium, wearing those attractive greenish vests, they are the tellers, and they're here to help you if needed. If you have any questions, please ask them. And please thank them for your service when you pass by any of them during the evening. We all owe a great deal of thanks to Mike Caleri, responsible for our video, and Chris Blood for the sound system. This gym is a very challenging environment, and Mike and Chris continue each year to make improvements to the systems. And thank you to Jackie Beebe, our Assistant Town Administrator, for supervising the gym setup today. And of course, thanks to Sue Fisher, our Town Clerk, and her volunteer registrars for the smooth registration process. Now I would like to introduce our new Fire Chief, Ken Fahrenkopf, who will describe procedures to follow in the event of an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening. My name is Ken Fahrenkopf. I'm the new fire chief for the town of Easton. I'm very proud to be here. I'd like to speak to you quickly about if we had an unusual event that occurred inside the building here, whether it be a fire alarm sounding or somebody needing medical attention. To assist you with any questions, as the moderator stated, we have these approximately 18 individuals in the lime green vest that will assist you in any way they can. For your safety, we have 2 firefighter paramedics on duty, 2 police officers, and the police chief. We are in direct contact with our police dispatcher and fire dispatcher if we need any additional resources. Please familiarize yourself with the exits, the 2 rear exits right and the left, and the other primary exit to the left-hand side. In the case of emergency, if we were to have to evacuate, please use the closest exit. And please exit in a quiet and orderly way, listening for any further directions if need be. If somebody sitting near you needs assistance in exiting the building, please assist them, or please get one of the attendants in the yellow vest or one of the public safety people to assist them out. If the power goes out in this building, the lights are on battery backup here. The only thing you need to know is there is a delay in the lights coming on for the generator to start. So if the lights do go out, please stay seated. It will take a short period of time, they'll come on, and we'll hopefully resume the business at hand. If someone is having a medical emergency, please notify somebody next to you to either get one of the attendants or one of the public safety people, and we will bring help to you and assist you in any way we can. If you notice anything unusual and needs to be brought to our attention, please do that. There's no smoking in the building or on the school grounds. I want to thank you and have a safe town meeting. Thank you.
I will now recognize Board of Selectmen Chair Elizabeth Gorin.
Good evening. I'm going to take a slight detour from the normal order of business tonight. Many of you may already know, but if you don't, I want to take this opportunity to announce that the town administrator, Sheila Vanderhoff, has submitted her resignation, and with some regret, the Board of Selectmen is going to accept that and respect her wishes. She will be with us until March of 2017, so it's not a quick detour and exit for her. But this is an opportunity because this will be Sheila's last town meeting. So we wanted to recognize her here and wanted you all to know that the town and the Board of Selectmen in particular have respected and admired your service to the town of Eastham, your professional, fair, and most effective management style. I remember when I first sat with Sheila, when I was contemplating the run for selectman, I asked her what she thought her biggest accomplishment was over the years. And I smiled when she said, the AAA bond rating. What more could we ask for? So I wanted to do that, to acknowledge that, and I believe some of the other selectmen may have a thing or two to say. But I wanted to assure everybody here that we have set as our highest priority in the coming year finding a professional manager who will continue the standard of excellent management that Sheila has provided for this town for 25 years. It will be actually on her 25th anniversary that she'll be retiring in March. So the board will be meeting over the next couple months. We'll be taking the time to create a process that will allow us to determine and the town to determine the values and the skills that this town needs in the coming years, and the best process to evaluate, select, and transition to a new town administrator. It's going to be a long process, and again, we appreciate Sheila's providing us with the amount of time we're going to need to fill those big shoes she's leaving. So I wanted you to know that, and I think John has something to say, and maybe some other selectmen too as well. Thank you.
Sure, I will leave the... Oh, Elizabeth, you said just nice things. Now what am I going to do? This is the final Eastham Town meeting for Sheila. And if ever we could say, where is the time gone? How could this be 25 years? It seems just like a blink of the eye. When things function the way they do in Eastham and how they end up being so well done, it's very easy for us to take it for granted. Sheila will always allude to the team effort of our town employees, but it takes leadership. And we are so fortunate to have Sheila's expertise and professionalism. All of us who have had the opportunity to work with Sheila could and probably should stand and relate our feelings. And I would ask any of my fellow selectmen if they would like to continue with comments honoring Sheila. Sheila, we will miss you.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, Sheila was hired to be our town administrator. Tonight, I'd like to thank Sheila for 25 years of dedicated service to the town of Eastham. Sheila has done an incredible job keeping our town in tip-top financial shape. We will truly miss her as she retires. And finally, she will get a chance to spend some time with her husband and her family. I have been honored to work with Sheila for the last 17 years.
I just want to say thank you for your service and dedication to the town of Eastham.
Sheila, thank you for your dedication and for your professionalism. I have only worked with you on the board for just a year, but I've really come to know just what a great professional you are, and there are going to be some very big shoes to fill.
Thank you.
Not to prolong this, but, oh,
Lastly, if
sorry.
I could, this may not show up in the budget, I'm not sure. But if you do find some money missing, Sheila, thank you.
Thank you very much for all your kind words. I appreciate them. I just want to say a couple of comments to the town meeting. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, co-workers, and friends, for I feel I have truly made some friends in my tenure here. There will be plenty of time before my last day to say personal goodbyes, but this is my last town meeting, and I feel compelled to offer a grand thank you to you all for the challenges, the opportunity, and the faith that you have placed in the entire employee team and me. While I am retiring, the very talented, professional, and hardworking staff will endure, and hardly a ripple will be felt in terms of my leaving and their transition. They know what they're doing, they do it well, and are committed to the highest public service principles, and you need to believe that. Therefore, it is with some regret, excitement, and sadness that I make this announcement tonight and attend my last town meeting. However, it is with great confidence in those who remain that I leave with a light heart and a positive view for the future of Eastham. At the end of the town meeting, we have some upbeat music. I want dancing, singing, and everybody exiting. Thank you.
So you heard several selectmen refer to Sheila's professionalism. I don't know if you all noticed, but before Sheila made her remarks, she leaned over towards me and said, "May I have the microphone?" There are 3 microphones. I want to go over some ground rules for the meeting. There are 3 microphones. The yes microphone is on my left and your right. The no microphone is on my right and your left. And in the middle is a microphone to ask questions. And please, if you have a question, just ask it. No long speeches at this mic, please. And all questions you have should be directed through me, and I will try to obtain an answer for you if I can. At any of the mics, you should wait until I recognize you to speak. And with one exception, I will do that only at a microphone. Please, no shouting from your seat. When it is your turn online and you are recognized, please state your name and address before making your statement or asking your question. Any motion to make an amendment must be in writing and brought to the podium before you make it. I may make an exception for a very simple amendment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. I will keep time and cannot again speak on a motion until others have an opportunity. This does not apply to certain town officials and committee representatives and to the person moving the main motion under an article. The primary speakers for the motions under the petitioned articles have agreed to limit their statements to 5 minutes or less. When your speaking time is almost expired, I will ask you to complete your statement quickly. Any voter may move to call the question after I recognize him or her. After I recognize him or her. If approved by 2/3 of those voting, that ends the debate. This motion is out of order if made by someone who's just made a statement at the microphone, since that would deprive others of a chance to respond. In this one instance, while you may make the motion to call the question at a microphone, you may also seek my recognition by standing at your seat and waiting for me to recognize you. Again, no calling out, please. Wait for me to recognize you. I have an obligation as moderator to help accomplish two objectives for our town meeting that sometimes appear in conflict. One is to provide a fair opportunity for voters to be heard and discuss the issues. And the second is to respect your time and avoid lengthy and repetitious debate. I will do my best to balance those equally important objectives for a town meeting. So what does this mean? If a motion to call the question is made after there has been a reasonable opportunity for discussion, in my sole judgment, I will proceed immediately to a vote on the motion to end debate. However, if in my judgment there has been no discussion or very little discussion, and if there are persons at the microphone who wish to speak, I may not immediately recognize the moving party or call for a vote on the motion at that time. It is very important that you remain seated at all times except when you are approaching the microphone or going to the restroom. One last housekeeping item. Ruth Leistensider, who is the daughter of an Eastham registered voter of the same name, but who is not herself an Eastham voter, has requested permission to speak, not to vote, to speak on her mother's behalf this evening because her mother is unable to do so herself. Is there any objection? Hearing none, permission is granted if she chooses to speak. We will again use electronic voting this year. The feedback we received after the last town meeting was overwhelmingly in favor of this method of recording votes. We are using the same vendor and system, Option Technologies, that was successfully used last year and is used by many other Massachusetts towns. As I did last year, I will give you a heads up when you should get prepared to vote on any motion. When I then announce that the voting period has begun, you will see a blue light right here and press 1 for yes and 2 for no. It's that simple. Now my slide says green light, but apparently the hardware store was out of green and we are using blue. Big change here for us. You will have 30 seconds to vote, and I will announce when the time is up, and the voting light will also be turned off. You may take a moment to read the one-page card you were given at registration before you start voting. A message that the electronic voting computer received your vote will be sent to your handset. Your device's display will show a message that says "Received" right after you vote. You may get a second message saying either "Yes received" or "No received," depending on how you voted. You may not get this second message, however, if you vote near the end of the 30-second voting period. The important thing is that you get the first message that says "Received." Again, as a reminder, you could change your vote at any time during the 30 seconds, but not after that. If you want to change your vote during the 30 seconds, just press the button you want, and it will replace your original vote. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Every handset was tested before this meeting, and so the probability of it failing is low. If you do not see a receive message after you vote, go right to the help desk. It's at the rear to my right, the rear of the gym to my right. And a vested teller is waving at you all now. At the help desk, one of our tellers will give you a new device to use for future votes. If you accidentally turn your device off, which is not easy to do, but if that happens, the screen will go blank. Just press the power button in the lower right-hand corner and it'll restore itself. If you have a question, ask the teller wearing the green vest in your section. It is possible that a few devices were inadvertently not checked in or activated properly. If you receive a message on the screen when you try to vote that says "Vote not counted," that's probably the reason. Go to the help desk and you'll be given a replacement handset that has already been activated. If you temporarily leave your seat during the meeting to use the restroom or perhaps to go to a microphone to speak to the town meeting, keep your handset with you. You may not leave the room without a handset, and you will need it to return. When you leave the building, drop the handset in the bin at the exit. A voter must be present to vote, and no one may use another person's handset, ever, for any reason. This is very important, and it's the law. Our tellers will be monitoring this in each section. I don't anticipate anyone will do this, but I wanted you to be sure you knew the rules. Before we get started, I want to remind you that town meetings are an important part of our history. They are unique to New England. You act as the legislative body for our town. This is very serious business. Last year I said that when working well, town meetings help to build a sense of community. And I think that's exactly what happened last year. Voters often disagreed on issues and solutions, but we did so in a polite, thoughtful, and civil manner. And I'm very confident that's what we will do tonight. And I thank you all in advance for that, courtesy to each other. Okay, let's have a good meeting now. We're going to start with one practice motion to make sure your handsets are activated and working and that you know how to use them. The practice motion to be voted on now is moved that the moderator shall wear a tie at town meeting. Please prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the blue light goes on. The blue light's on and the voting period is open. The blue light is off and the voting period is concluded. Yes, 390, 170. I'm glad you liked my tie. Okay, let's get started now. I'm going to try something a little different this year with the agreement of our Board of Selectmen. I will try to speed things up even more than we did last year. The subject matter of the first 6 articles on the warrant are on the warrant every year, and they always pass overwhelmingly. So I will entertain a motion from Selectman O'Shea for adoption of all 6 as stated in the warrant. I will then call out each article separately, and if any person wishes to speak to that article, please stand up at your seat, and after I call all of the articles, I will return to any article where discussion is desired and invite you to the appropriate microphone. Selectman O'Shea.
I move to approve Articles 1 through 6 as printed in the warrant, and that the sum of $1,700 be raised and appropriated for Article 1, that the sum of $10,000 be transferred from free cash for Article 5, and that the sum of $16,000 be transferred from free cash for Article 6.
Second.
The motion having been seconded, I will now call out each article. If you wish to discuss, please stand and call out hold, please. Article 1. Article 2. Article 3. Article 4. Article 5. Article 6. There being no holds, we will proceed to a vote on the motion to approve Articles 1 to 6 as printed in the warrant. Please prepare to vote and remember 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the blue light goes on. The blue light is on, you may vote. The blue light is off, the voting period is ended. $549 yes, 22 no. The motion passes. Article 7, Selectman Adams.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $70,000 to be combined with monies from Article 6 at town meeting May 5th, 2014, and Article 19, May 4th, 2015, for the purposes as printed in the warrant.
Selectman Adams, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No.
Are there any comments or questions from the floor? Seeing none, we will now vote. A yes vote will approve the transfer from free cash to fund certain costs associated with the decommissioning of the Tri-Town Septic Treatment Plant, and a no vote would not approve the transfer. Prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes and 2 for no. And you have 30 seconds after the blue light goes on. The blue light is on. The blue light's off. The voting period is closed. Yes, 540, no 29. The motion carries. Article 8, Selectman O'Shea.
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to add to the OPEB trust for purposes as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Selectman O'Shea, do you wish to speak to the motion? Are there any questions or comments from the floor? Let's do this by voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes with a majority. Article 9, Selectman Burt.
I move that the town vote to transfer from May 2014 annual town meeting, Article 16, the sum of $20,000 for the purposes as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Selectman Burt, do you wish to speak to your motion?
No, it's explained in the summary.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions from the floor? A yes vote would approve the funding of the job reclassification study for town employees. A no vote would not approve the funding of the study. Please prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds after the blue light is on. You may vote. The voting period is now closed. 449 yes, 114 no. The motion passes. Article 10, Selectman Burt.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $104,000 to be apportioned as follows in the May 2015 annual town meeting, Article 12, line 46, waste collection and disposal expense, $74,000, line 27, fire salaries, $3,000, line 28, fire expense, $10,000, line 14, central purchasing, $12,000, and line 71, unemployment expense, $5,000. And further, the town vote to transfer $12,000 to line 12, data processing expense, from line 13, data processing salary, and transfer $6,500 to line 15, town clerk salary, from line 8, assessor's salary.
Is there a second?
Second.
Selectman Burt, do you wish to speak to the motion?
This is just to cover shortfalls from the current fiscal year.
Are there any comments or questions from the floor? I'm going to do another voice vote now. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes. Article 11, I'm going to recognize Finance Committee Chairman Hackworth.
I move Article 11 to see if the town will vote to fix the salary and compensation of all elected officials for a total of $81,664 as set out in the warrant.
Second.
Do you wish to speak to the motion? I heard a second, yes. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
The Finance Committee supports Article 11. We voted 6 in favor and no opposition, and we encourage the town to vote in favor of Article 11.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, to restate your motion.
Okay, I have different instructions here. I'll try it again. I move to fix the salary and compensation of all elected officials of the town as provided by Section 108, Chapter 41 of the General Laws as amended, and further to raise and appropriate $81,664 for the various positions as printed in the warrant.
Second.
I think that one worked.
Thank you, Mike. Well, it wouldn't do much good to have the motion without appropriating the funds, so I appreciate your making that correction. Please prepare to, does anyone wish to speak to this motion? Please prepare to vote. 1 for yes, 2 for no. You have 30 seconds after the blue light goes on. Voting period's open. $484 yes, 80 no. The motion passes. Article 12, Selectman Burt.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move to set the operating budget at $25,641,738 as printed in the warrant, and to meet this expenditure, to raise and appropriate and use estimated receipts totaling $24,729,338, and transfer from ambulance receipts reserved account $300,000 to line 28 fire salaries, and transfer from the septic loan betterment account $20,400 to line 65 septic betterment loan, and transfer from the windmill receipts reserved account $1,000 to line 60 beach and recreation expense, and transfer from the government media access account $111,000 to line 11 data processing salary, and transfer from the solar income account the sum of $80,000 to line 23 energy and fuels expense, and transfer from free cash $400,000 to line 37, and further to transfer from free cash dog receipts an additional $2,500 to line 59 library expense.
The motion has been made and seconded. Selectman Burt, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Article 12 is the operating budget that funds all town departments in our schools. This year's budget is up 6.6%, however, it is balanced and does not require an override. While some department expenses have increased for next year, there will also be decreases in other parts of the budget. Our town administrator, department heads, Board of Selectmen, and Finance Committee work hard to continue to keep the operation of our town at a reasonable cost to our citizens while providing the necessary services. Thank you for your continued support. The Board of Selectmen voted 5-0 in favor of this article.
As we have done in the past, I will first go through each section of the budget on pages 11 to 13 of the warrant, and I will ask if any voter wishes to discuss any line item in that section. You may rise at your seat to tell me this. If there is a yes or a hold on any line items, I will return to each of them in order and ask that the person who placed the hold to come to the microphone and address that item. And then I will open discussion on the floor for that line item. Let me go through each of the categories now. General Government, lines 1 to 24. Public Safety and Inspectional Services, lines 25 to 36. Educational Services, lines 37 to 40. Public Works and Sanitation, lines 41 to 47. Health and Human Services, lines 48 to 56. Culture and Recreation, lines 57 to 60. Debt and Banking Services, lines 61 to 70. Okay, thank you. Well, let me finish and just hold that. Was that on other expenses, the last one, or was it on debt and banking? Okay. And other expenses, general government, lines 71 to 75. Why don't you come to the microphone and yes.
Bonnie Newendel, 255 Meeting House Road. I have a question about number 66 under debt and banking services. Does this mean that we are still paying off the Purcell property?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Bain.
Joe Bain, Herringbrook Road. I have a couple questions. One is on, well, looking at the last town report, the approved budget had different numbers than this, and I have a question about them. Line 64 was in that budget at 10K, and is in here at 60. And 68 was in there at 455, it's in here at 395. And I didn't know why those changed.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, please.
What we do with these, where we've transferred money, we just had that article where we transferred money into articles. We make those adjustments so you can see the actual spent in the previous year, the actual budget, as opposed to this year's budget.
So this is more like the actuals than the budget?
Yeah.
Okay, so the only other comment I have to make is, as it was noted, we've raised the debt service by about $1 million because of water this coming year. And I think I want to talk more to that when we get to the taking Article 31.
Does anyone wish to make a statement or ask a question about the budget as a whole? Okay, a yes vote would appropriate the amounts set forth in the article, and a no vote would not approve the appropriation or would require the selectmen to propose a new budget. Please prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes, 2 for no, and you have 30 seconds after the light goes on. You may vote. Voting period is closed. 523 yes, 51 no. The motion passes. Article 13, Selectman Knight.
I move to appropriate $622,500 and to meet this appropriation to raise and appropriate $70,000, transfer from free cash $421,500, and transfer from the ambulance receipts reserved account $116,000, and transfer from the government media excess account $15,000, and for the purposes of acquiring the items and undertaking the improvements as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Selectman Knight, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, these are items that have been on the capital plan for the last 5 years and have gradually just worked their way down, and they have all been approved by the selectmen to be expended as stated in the summary in the article.
Are there any comments or questions from the floor? Seeing none, we'll now vote. A yes vote would appropriate the amount set forth in Article 13, and a no vote would not approve the appropriation. Please prepare to vote, and 1 for yes, 2 for no. You have 30 seconds after the blue light goes on. You may vote. The voting period is closed. 528 yes, 38 no. The motion passes. Article 14, Selectman Knight.
I move in accordance with the requirements of the Town of Eastham Home Rule Charter, Section 6-6A, to accept the capital improvement plan for the fiscal year 18 to fiscal year 22 as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Selectman Knight, would you like to make a statement?
Yeah, this is, all departments are allowed to submit requests for studies, equipment, supplies, improvements, various items to be placed on the 5-year capital plan, and their placeholders working their way down to, hopefully, the annual capital plan.
Are there any comments or questions from the floor? Yes.
Hi, Mr. Moderator. Paula Ashatino, 21 Smith Lane. With your permission, I'd like to ask a question from this mic first, if I could, to Sheila Vanderhoff.
What is your question?
My question, could you explain on page 20 of the capital plan under number 142, I see a article or an item, municipal wastewater, water planning implementation, which over the next 5 years has a $50 million estimated cost to the citizens. I wondered if you could explain what that is for.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, please.
That money is for, we must engage, as most of the communities on the Cape under the 208 program, to develop a wastewater disposal plan. We are in the process of installing municipal water as part of our public health approach to groundwater protection and clean water. So this line, we've combined both the wastewater and the municipal water, knowing that we're going to have to fund both of those programs going forward. We're not sure about the exact amount of money. The studies are still in process. So this is an attempt to categorize what we think may be some of the costs associated with that program.
Okay. Mr. Moderator, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a couple of comments on the article as it stands, or maybe I should do my motion first. Maybe that would be, I'm not sure on protocol. But I am making a motion to amend Article 14 and to remove item 142, wastewater, planning and implementation, due to the lack of any discussion to the townspeople on this cost, also the lack of any mention of this expense.
Just state
Oh, sorry.
your motion. We'll get time to discuss it.
Okay, so my motion is to amend the article and to remove item number 142.
Is there a second? Would you like to speak to your motion now?
Yes, thank you, sir. The reason I'd like to have this removed is that there has been no discussion in this recent preparation of the warrant. On March 28th, there was a presentation of these warrant articles by the Board of Selectmen. This was not mentioned in any way, and as we note in the summary of this article, there is no mention of a expected $50 million cost to the citizens. The first $12 million of that will come up in 2018, which is just around the corner. I am very concerned that now that we have approved $130.8 million for the water project, where none of us since 2014 are seeing the real tax implications on our finances, and not to say that we don't need a wastewater system, but I am extremely disappointed that the Board of Selectmen has not been more upfront and transparent and open on a possible cost of this magnitude. This plays into Article 31, where we are asked to spend money on another purchase when I feel that this town and these citizens in this community cannot afford the 5,000 households these expenses. And we need to have openness so that when we vote on articles such as later tonight, we realize the implication financially to us. I ask that this be voted on and that our citizens, until we have better information, remove this portion from this budget at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Bain.
I'm not speaking to the motion.
Well, I was surprised since you're standing at the microphone.
I'm waiting to ask a question on the budget.
On the capital plan, you mean?
Yes.
Why don't you walk over to the question, Mike? Mr. Harris.
Charles Harris, 800 Samoset. I've attended the Water Management Committee meetings for the past year, and the town does have a contract with GHD Engineering to study the wastewater needs and come up with the particular actions that we need to work with. It's a question of looking at the existing conditions, and looking at the existing cures, and finding out what would be an appropriate way of going forward. So there really has been a good engineering work up to this point to identify these expenses. Thank you.
Ms. Ekman?
Yes, hi, Amy Ekman from the Finance Committee. Just want to point out that this article is not an appropriation of those funds. It is merely a planning tool that the town needs to use in case that money needs to be appropriated. A separate article would have to come forward at town meeting in the future for any of this money to be appropriated. So to take it out is kind of silly. It's not an appropriation. It's just a planning tool. So I ask that you please leave it in and vote the article as presented.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, please.
Yes, just to further expand on that, this line was in the previous 5-year capital plan that we approved. The municipal water portion of this is a part of this article, as I pointed out, but we know that we need to do all of these studies and we don't know exactly what they're going to cost. But as Finance Committee member Ekman pointed out, before an appropriation of that size goes forward, it needs to come back to this body. Right now, we are in the middle of installing the municipal water, which was part of this and on this plan. And we've been able to secure some favorable loans for that, and that's how we're proceeding. And certainly when we get ready to talk about this appropriation, the article will give us the opportunity to get loans and grants, which we are currently enjoying some for the municipal water installation.
Ms. Bain?
Mr. Moderator, I want to speak against the motion. Am I in the right place?
Well, you're not, but
Go ahead.
Go on.
Okay. I'm Sandy Bain from 315 Herringbrook Road. This situation is a difficult one for the town. Yes, no appropriation is made by this, but at the same time, we're working against a deadline for wastewater planning, studies and planning that has been set by a suit by the Conservation Law Foundation, which binds Cape Cod towns to go ahead and begin to implement or begin to plan for implementation of wastewater management. So we don't have a lot of time, we have some time, but we certainly should not take this out of the capital plan.
Thank you. Yes.
If I could just make one comment. I don't think that the time is now to discuss whether or not we have wastewater. That's not my point. My point of complaint and my message to the selectmen is that when you put a $50 million possible charge to the townspeople in this 5-year capital plan, but then for some reason in the summary and in the discussion when you explain the warrant item, there is no mention of something of that size, I find that concerning. And I do feel that something of that magnitude certainly should have been in this summary. But thank you very much.
Okay. Are there any comments, further comments or questions regarding the motion to amend? Okay. The motion to amend is considered before the main motion. So all you are going to be asked to consider now is whether item 142 should be deleted from the capital plan. Be prepared to vote, one for yes and one for no. Yes? Well, that makes sense. Let's do it that way. A yes vote would delete item 142 regarding wastewater planning. A no vote would not delete it. Be prepared to vote. You have 30 seconds after the blue light goes on. You may vote. Voting period is ended. Yes, 134, no, 451, the motion to amend fails. Okay, we're now back to the main motion, which was made by Selectman Knight to accept the capital plan. Are there any comments or questions? Mr. Bain.
On line 140, there's a line that says land acquisition, housing, affordable housing purchases. And there's 75,000, I guess, in there for way out in the future. My question is, we have Article 31 where we're going to have $1.4 million to acquire land. Did that need to be on the capital plan before it can be considered by town meeting?
Would you like to address that?
Mr. Moderator, the article is a petitioned article, and so the constraints under the section of the charter don't apply as directly as they could. Should the town meeting choose to require the 4/5, you could. I think that the line item that is there where we are continuously trying to acquire land for affordable housing may apply. I think the decision needs to be up to the body because we've never really run into a situation where we've had a petitioned article to purchase land for the purpose of affordable housing.
Anything further?
That's it. Okay, so the only other question I have is, I assume this would require a debt exclusion. Is that true? And is it on the ballot coming up?
When you say this, what are you referring to?
The $1.4 million.
Article 31?
Right. I'll wait to, I'll ask it then.
Moving ahead, Article 31 by its own terms provides for a debt exclusion.
I'll ask.
Okay, you could wait for that. Are there any more comments or questions? Please go to a microphone.
Catherine Richardson, Armour Drive, Eastham. I notice on this paper, page, gosh, can't read the number, that some of these columns, there are letters at the end of them, like A, D, and F, and there's no explanation of what those mean. I wonder if you could clarify that.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, please.
If you look at the last page of the 5-year capital plan, at the bottom there's a key where it says F.
On page 20.
Yeah, 25.
Right. Okay. I've been told that's the left side. I'm still struggling with left and right, but I'm going to do the best I can here.
Okay.
On the left side of page 20, there's a key. And that key refers to these small item letters, which tell you the funding source or projected funding source for each purchase.
So the majority of these expenditures look like they're coming from the ambulance receipts?
In that section where you are, lines 117 to 136, many of those are coming from the ambulance receipts because they're really related to the fire ambulance operation.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions from the floor? Oh, okay. Seeing none, we're going to go to a vote. A yes vote would accept the 5-year capital improvement plan as set forth in the motion. It would not appropriate at this time any of the funding that would be left to future town meetings to determine. A no vote would not approve the capital plan. Please prepare to vote, and remember 1 for yes, and indeed 2 for no. The light is on, voting is open. Yes, 536. No, 43. The motion passes. Article 15, Selectman Adams.
I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the Great and General Court to approve a home rule petition as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Selectman Adams, do you wish to speak to your motion?
No, but if there's any questions, Mr. Stephen Wasby from the Zoning Board of Appeals would be glad to answer them.
Are there any questions or comments from the floor? Seeing none, let's do a voice vote on this. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion passes by majority vote. Article 16, Selectman O'Shea.
I move the town vote to amend the Town of Eastham zoning bylaw, Section 2, zoning districts as printed in the warrant.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Selectman O'Shea, would you like to speak to the motion?
Now, this is a motion to set aside an overlay district for the area around our water system, around the water wells. And it's spelled out in quite a bit of detail in the warrant.
Are there any questions or comments from the floor? For the information of the town meeting, this has been recommended by the planning board. Let's move on to a vote. A yes vote would approve the amendment to the zoning bylaws to create the groundwater protection overlay district. A no vote would not approve the bylaw change. A 2/3 majority is necessary for approval. Please prepare to vote. 1 for yes, 2 for no. You have 30 seconds after the blue light goes on. You may vote. The voting period is closed. The yes votes are 539. The no votes are 41. The 2/3 majority has been reached. The motion passes. Article 17, Selectman Burt.
I move that the town vote to transfer from the debt account the sum of $348,461.66 and transfer from free cash $41,538.34 for purposes as printed in the warrant.
Second. The motion's been made and seconded. Selectman Burt, would you like to speak to the motion?
It's in the summary on the warrant.
Are there any comments or questions from the floor? Seeing none, we'll now vote. A yes vote will authorize the transfer of funds to pay bond interest on our debt. A no vote would not approve the transfer. Please prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes, 2 for no. You have 30 seconds after the blue light goes on. You may vote. The voting period is closed. Yes, 541, no, 27. The motion passes. Article 18, Selectman Adams.
I move that the town vote to accept General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 23D for purposes as printed in the warrant.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Selectman Adams, would you like to speak to the motion?
No.
I asked and it was answered. Are there any comments or questions from the floor? Seeing none, a yes vote would accept the provision of state law allowing a town board member who is absent from one session of a multi-session hearing to participate in future sessions, and no vote would not accept the authorization in state law. I'm going to do this by an oral vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes. Article 19, Selectman Gorin.
I move to transfer from the FY 2015 estimated community preservation revenues the following amounts. Open Space Reserve, $75,754. Historical Reserve, $75,754. Affordable Housing, $75,754. And $75,754 from the Active Recreation Reserve, and $454,527 to the FY17 Community Preservation Budget Reserve for appropriations for a total of $757,543 for purposes as printed in the warrant.
The motion's been made in second. Selectman Gorin, do you wish to speak to your motion?
I would just mention, as it printed in the summary, that this article seeks to set aside 10% of the estimated community preservation revenue for those categories, and this has been the practice of the CPC for some years.
Are there any comments or questions from the floor? Seeing none, we'll be prepared to vote. You have 30 seconds to vote after the blue light goes on, 1 for yes or 2 for no. Voting period is open. Voting period is closed. $509 yes, 55 no. The motion passes. Article 20, Selectman Gorin.
I move to transfer from the Community Preservation Undesignated Fund Balance $37,877 to an administrative expense account for the purposes as printed in the warrant.
The motion's been made in second. Do you wish to speak to the motion? No.
Self-explanatory.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions from the floor? Okay, we're going to do a voice vote again now. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes with a majority. Article 21, Selectman Gorin.
I move that the town vote to extend Article 27 from the 2013 annual town meeting until May 31st, 2017, as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Selectman Gorin, do you wish to speak to the motion?
The Article 27 was funded for $175,000 for the rental subsidy program for a period of 3 years. Currently, there is a balance of $26,890. This article will extend the life beyond the 3-year requirement for an additional year.
Are there any comments or questions from the floor? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Article 22, Selectman Gorin.
I move to transfer from the Community Preservation Fund Historic Reserve the total sum of $207,000 as a grant to the Nauset Fellowship under such terms and conditions as the Selectmen may request for purposes as printed in the warrant and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire an historic preservation restriction on the property.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Selectman Gorin, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, I don't.
I'm sorry, did you say no? Are there?
But there is somebody from the Nauset Fellowship that may want to.
Bob C.,
Yes, sir.
215 Samoset Road. I'm the president of the Nauset Fellowship, and we have owned the beautiful chapel in the Pines since 1979 and have been lovingly taking care of it. But we do need a new roof. So we thought upon that we would approach the town to see if there was any historic preservation money. And when I attended the meeting and brought the photograph of the original building as it looked in 1890, the committee said, we want it to look like that. So this truly is a restoration effort to bring the chapel back to what it looked like in 1890 when it was built. And for those of you who know the Penniman House, this is actually the Penniman Church. This is Captain Penniman's church. He founded the Universalist Society, and he also had a direct hand in designing and building the chapel. So tonight we have a great opportunity using the community preservation funds to restore the building, provide really good handicapped access and handicapped restroom, and also a sprinkler system to preserve the building for many years to come.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mike Gazowski, 2955 Herringbrook Road. Just to follow up on his remarks, it is a beautiful representation of the 1890 building by Elkanah Hopkins. It's been fabulously maintained and preserved by the Nauset Fellowship, and they would greatly appreciate your continued help and support in seeing the needed reparations be completed. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or suggestions from the floor? Seeing none, let's vote. Please prepare to vote. And remember, 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds after the blue light goes on. The voting period is open. The voting period is closed. Yes, 552. No, 32. The motion passes. Article 23, Selectman Gorin.
I move to transfer $151,400 from the Community Preservation Active Recreation Reserve and $348,600 from the undesignated fund balance for the purposes as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Selectman Gorin, do you want to speak to the motion?
This article would fund the recreation and restoration of park, basketball, recreational facilities, and repair existing recreational facilities and what's called the Field of Dreams. I thought I was in Town Hall. I was going to point over there, but we're not in Town Hall. A total of $500,000 to make those improvements and additions. The Eastham Recreation Commission has endorsed this proposal.
Are there any other comments or questions from the floor? Seeing none, please prepare to vote. 1 for yes, 2 for no, 30 seconds after the blue light goes on. You may vote. Voting period is closed. Yes, 498, no, 78. The motion passes. Article 24, Selectman Gorin.
I move to transfer the sum of $12,000 from the Community Preservation Affordable Housing Fund Reserve as a grant to the Affordable Housing Trust for purposes as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Your warrant did not include the recommendation of the Finance Committee, which was made this evening. On an 8-to-1 vote, the Finance Committee recommended approval of this article. Are there any, Selectman Gorin, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Only to say that the Community Preservation Act provides that funding for staff expertise, which is needed for the Affordable Housing Trust, and that's how the funds would be used, for staff.
Are there any comments or suggestions or comments or questions from the floor? Seeing none, please prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds after the blue light comes on. You may vote. Yes, 497, no, 77. The motion passes. Article 25, Selectman Adams.
I move to transfer from Community Preservation Undesignated Fund balance the sum of $8,500 for the purpose as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Selectman Adams, do you wish to speak to your motion?
It spells it out pretty well in the summary.
Are there any comments or questions from the floor? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes by majority. Article 26, Selectman O'Shea.
I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $428,500 from the Community Preservation Undesignated Fund balance for purposes of paying debt related to open space purchases as printed in the warrant.
I didn't hear, was there a second? Yes. Thank you. The motion's been made in second. Selectman O'Shea, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, this is just debt payment on land purchases that were approved at prior town meetings.
Are there any comments or questions from the floor? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carries unanimously. Article 27, Selectman Burt.
I move that the town vote to accept as a public way the layout of Hay Road from Governor Prince to Bridge Road as printed in the warrant, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift, purchase, or eminent domain an easement in said road to use for all purposes for which public ways are used in the town of Eastham and all related easements thereto.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Selectman Burt, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Only that we've been talking about this for many years. It's been before the board several times. It's been at town meetings several times, and we would really, really like to do this.
I see there are both comments and questions on the floor. Let me have the question first, Mr. Bain.
Okay, if I remember, this is a question. If I remember correctly, on the water plan that I've seen, there was an intention to install a pipe from Governor Prince to Bridge Road along Hay Road, and I don't know whether that is still in the water plan.
We didn't entirely get what you said. Can you restate it, please?
Yeah, in the plan to install municipal water, in the original plan, there was a pipe to be installed along Hay Road from Governor Prince to Bridge Road. So my question is that still in the plan? And if so, won't that involve digging up Hay Road anyway and fixing it?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, please.
Just to be clear, the question, I believe, is whether or not we would still be installing water pipe along Hay Road regardless of this article's status. Yes, the plan of the water installation program is to install on public and private roads. We do have to secure easements through two different processes for the private roads. Private roads within subdivisions are one process, private roads not in subdivisions are another process, and Town Council is helping us map through that process so that we can be able to install water on all public and private roads, as was the intent of the article.
Okay, the second question is, is it true that in order to have fire hydrants along that road, you would have to have the pipe installed? So if it's not installed, there would be difficulty getting fire coverage? Or?
Yes, they would be fire hydrants without water. Kind of useless.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I want to ask the persons who wish to speak to this motion to please be sure you're at the right mic. It will assist me to make sure there's a fair discussion. I wasn't as strict about that on earlier motions, but on this one, if you're in support of the motion, please go to the yes mic. If you're opposed, please go to the no mic. Let me start with the yes mic. Yes, please. State your name and address, please.
I'm Bill Burke. I live at 10 Lucinda Court. I live in Cape Town Hills development of 100-plus homes. 1965, the planning board signed and approved the subdivision with Hay Road laid out as a 40-foot town public way. The town never required the developer to complete the public access to the subdivision. Therefore, we have no credible legal public access to our homes. The 100-plus residents of the development live on public roads. All 6 roads within the approved subdivision are public town-owned roads. In winter, the town plows and sands the public roads, but not the private roads entering our subdivision. I, along with many of the homeowners, have no legally defined deeded access over the private roads, and therefore have no legal right to work on or repair the private roads, nor in fact to drive over the private roads. The poor condition of the private access roads threatens the property values in the development, as evidenced by 2 recent home buyers backing out of the purchase because of the access roads. By supporting this article tonight, we are asking that the town correct its failure in the late 1960s and provide us a safe, legal, public access to our homes. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Yes.
My name is Henry Fisher. I live at 225 Deacon Payne Road. The town's debt is up. Everyone's taxes are rising. And I ask my fellow voters to look at the warrant, and you will see that every article using your tax money has a cost associated with it. Even the greenhead fly control in Article 1 has a price allocation of $1,700. The town has already spent $4,900 of taxpayer money to have Hay Road surveyed. And this is done with no approval from us here at town meeting. And as yet, no one has picked up a shovel to widen or smooth Hay Road. So we do not know the costs associated with this article, especially going down the road. So to make changes that I can't even imagine and I don't want to think about, but I want you to ask yourself this question as a taxpayer. Can we afford to write the town a blank check? Now, in the past, I've argued, and some of my neighbors have argued, to preserve the rural character of our part of town, hearkening back to the lyrics of Old Cape Cod. But Eastham is no longer a quaint little village, and we now contend with fiscal responsibility of wetlands preservation, drainage control, and traffic enforcement, which this article and the next one will bring. Each of these comes with a hefty price tag. And although we find the taking of a private road without the consent of 80% of the abutters distasteful, we think that you can protect your wallet by waiting until Article 33. And when that comes before you, you can decide whether you want to support a more financially sound and more effective remedy. I and my wife ask you with all the sincerity that we can to please vote no on this article and the next. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. I'll recognize the person at the mic for the question.
I have a quick question. Am I correct in that in the passing of this warrant, it does not give the town at a later time the possibility of further widening and paving the road? That would that would require another warrant.
Would someone like to address that on the board, or Ms. Vanderhoff? Would you restate the question?
Yes. The warrant as it's stated, am I correct in saying that it will only widen the road to 14 feet, it will remain unpaved, and that if at a later date the town decides to make it further widened or to pave it, it would require another warrant to be voted at town meeting?
The layout would be 40 feet. The proposal as it sits before you now is for 14 feet. It is, given the cost of an expansion and given the discussion here, it would seem prudent that it would come back, but there's no requirement that I can state for you that it absolutely would need to come back.
But you're only approving 14 feet with this warrant?
That is the question before you, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go to the yes mic now, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Sue Horton. I live in this subdevelopment. I have a lot that borders both Woodland Way and Country Lane. As one of the prior speakers stated, we're in a very unique situation in that we are living on public roads that are accessed by private roads. This situation has come to, as I stated last year, and it's still true now more than ever, this is critical mass. We need safe access to our homes, to our properties, from a public safety standpoint, if nothing else. It distresses me that when I hear folks speaking against this, that no other solution to the problem is offered. And we need a solution, and we need it now. All of us are paying our fair share of taxes. We're not asking for a boulevard, as was just clarified. We're just looking for safe, stable access. We don't want it paved. We don't want it widened. We just need safe access so we can get in and out of our homes and we can receive public safety and emergency services in a timely manner. Please help us out and please support this article.
Thank you. Mr. Eastman, do you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Oh.
It's working now.
I guess it is.
Brian Eastman, 15 White Pines Drive. My question is, Sheila just said a 14-foot wide layout, but the article says a 40
Just to
foot
correct,
wide layout.
Ms. Vanderhoff said 40. You may have misheard. She said 40.
40-foot layout, 14-foot travelway.
But there's no restriction to prevent the town from, say, paving a 26-foot wide driveway down there. Is that true?
I believe it would not be required to come back to town meeting, but I think as a practical matter, it would.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, at the no mic.
Hi, David Crary on 575 Route 6.
but I lived on Hay Road most of my life. And I'm sort of speaking for my father, too, who can't be here. I think the town's being a little bit hoodwinked here. A few years ago, the town voted at this body to accept private ways with some stipulations that include 100% concurrence of all the abutters. The intent of that rule is and was so that road petitioners could try and tell the town, say, hey, help us out here, help make our road public, or at least pave it. This article is put forth by the selectmen, and it's not for the people on the road, it's for people in a subdivision behind the road. I would suggest buyer beware. If I purchased a house there, which I would, but I would know that it should be worth a little bit less money because it does not have public access. I also know that, or I feel that if I lived on a road outside of Hay Road, maybe Queen Anne Road, and all of a sudden somebody wanted to get to the high school, or if there was a little path to one of the herring ponds, or if there was another little two-track road, the way that this seems that the Board of Selectmen put this forth, saying, this can help people out behind you. And even if you're in a butter, you've kind of lost. There are other solutions. Hay Road has been Hay Road is private, it always has been. This would change that. I do not believe that the town will stop at 14 feet. If it gets to be, that's the improvement part, at some point it'll be a full-on road, paved. It'll be a shortcut between Route 6 and Bridge Road. There'll be a lot of folks going in through there. That'll change the travel. I would skip going down there instead of going by the Superette. So this article is not well conceived. It's just something that's going along, but I would say that if I had property out there, I would buy someone out. I would buy an access. Don't take from abutters who don't want that done. Purchase some homes on Route 6, apply for a curb cut. Buy the folks out. Thank you.
There is someone who's seeking recognition to call the question. There's only one speaker who wishes to speak, and I'm going to recognize that speaker. Yes, please.
Thank you. Lawrence Perry, 835 Hay Road. I find it absolutely incredible that we have to go to this length to try to improve Hay Road to make it only 14 foot wide and not to pave it. Mr. Crary has erected a fence that in front of my house narrows the road down to 9 feet. And this is absolutely incredible. I've been told by the town that I can't do anything, they can't do anything unless I want to personally take him to court. And right now there is a fence leaving only 9 foot of width between my house and Crary's property. This is unacceptable, it's unsafe, and I cannot believe that this would continue.
Thank you. Go to the microphone. Just go to the microphone. I recognize the gentleman at the question microphone.
Moderator, Carl Nyman, Joshua's Way. I move to call the article.
I'll interpret that as a motion to call the question being the motion to approve the Hay Road as a public way. This motion requires a 2/3 vote to approve. Be prepared to vote. We're going to vote electronically. 1 for yes and 2 for no. A yes vote would end debate, and then we would go back to the motion that's on the floor. Be prepared to vote. 2/3 majority is needed. As I said, you have 30 seconds to vote after the blue light goes on. You may vote. The voting period is closed. Yes, 502, no 80. The debate is ended. We will now proceed to a vote on the motion, the main motion. A yes vote would accept Hay Road as a public way. A no vote would not accept Hay Road as a public way. A 2/3 majority is needed for approval, and we will again vote electronically. Please be prepared to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes and 2 for no. The voting period is open. Voting period is closed. Yes, 463, no 119. The yeses have 2/3 majority. The motion passes. Okay. Article 28, Selectman Adams, do you wish to?
I would move that we remove this from the warrant since Article 27 passed.
Second.
All in favor?
Indefinite postponement.
We'll construe that as a motion to indefinitely postpone Article 28. It was seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries by majority. Article 29, Selectman O'Shea.
I move that the town vote to amend the Town of Eastham Code, Part 1, the bylaws, Chapter 49, and Section 4, Paragraph A, as printed in the warrant.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Selectman O'Shea, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No. I think it's explained pretty well in the
Are there
in the
any
warrant.
comments or questions from the floor? Seeing none, we'll now vote. A yes vote would amend the town bylaws to assure that the original appointing authority to the Finance Committee would also fill midterm vacancies. A no vote would not amend the bylaws. We'll vote by voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes by majority. I think I heard a no there. Article 30, Selectman O'Shea.
I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a 99-year ground lease to assist in the development of affordable rental housing on town-owned land as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Selectman O'Shea, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, this is to give the Board of Selectmen authorization to enter into a lease for the Purcell property, which will be an inducement to try to get a developer in there to develop affordable housing.
Are there any comments or questions from the floor? Okay, a yes vote would authorize the board to enter into a 99-year lease for the development of the so-called Purcell property, and a no vote would not authorize a 99-year lease. Please prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes and 2 for no. A 2/3 majority is required for approval. You have 30 seconds to vote after the blue light goes on.
Mr. Moderator, point of order. The listed in the warrant, Article 30 says a majority vote.
Well, I stand corrected. When you have the town council, the assistant town administrator, and one of the selectmen reminding you of the right number, you go with it. So we only need a majority vote on this.
Thank you.
Thank you all. You still have 30 seconds to vote after the blue light goes on. It's on. You may vote. Voting period is closed. He's fast this year. Yes, 456, no 85. The motion passes. Article 31. I will recognize Mr. Kerry, the lead petitioner for Article 31. Mr. Kerry, please state your full name and address, and then make your motion.
Hi, good evening. My name is Scott Kerry, and I live on Fisher Road. I move the town to vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift, purchase, and/or grant pursuant to Mass General Law C-79 a parcel of land located at 4790 State Highway and shown on the Assessor's Map 05, Parcel 124, and as more particularly identified in the deeds recorded in the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds in Book 27046, page 73, for general municipal purposes including, but not limited to, public housing, recreation, open space, economic development, and under such terms and conditions agreeable to the selectmen, and that sum of $1.4 million be approved for such acquisition, that to meet the appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is hereby authorized to borrow $1.4 million and to issue bonds and notes thereafter, provided that said appropriation is contingent on the passage of Prop 2.5 debt exclusion vote.
Is there a second? The motion has been made and seconded. Mr. Kerry, would you like to speak to your motion?
I would. Thank you very much. As you all just heard, the words eminent domain are not in our motion. I just wanted to remind everybody of that. 2 years ago, we gathered in this very auditorium, the same one where I graduated from high school, to tackle the need for all citizens to have access to clean drinking water. We made the hard decision to support a town-wide water system. Tonight, we are at another crossroads, which will ensure our community remains the best place to live on Cape Cod. That issue is affordable housing. How do we remain a community that is diverse when many cannot afford to live here due to the wide economic gap and the high cost of living? The answer is clear to me and my fellow members of the Citizens Group. We need to work together as a community to tackle affordable housing issues through a development strategy. As many of you are aware, a request for proposal, or otherwise known, is due on the Purcell property off Brackett Road. This development will have approximately 71 residences and will range from 30% of the average median income in Barnstable County to 120% of average median income. This will be a development I hope we'll all be proud of and will allow the town of Eastham to get to approximately 2/3 the number of affordable units the state has mandated communities should attain. Earlier this winter, our town planner, Paul Lag, with the assistance of the Board of Selectmen, published a housing production plan. The plan detailed facts and figures about housing costs and development costs. It is clear the economics of the Cape reveal a wide range of incomes and a high price point to enter both the housing ownership and rental marketplace, as well as limited economic opportunities, especially on the seasonal Outer Cape. The housing production plan details how best to achieve these goals, and the highlights are making publicly owned land available for affordable housing and to continue to partner with developers. The request for proposal on the Purcell property development follows those goals beautifully. The bids and proposals are due coming this week, and it is exciting to finally make a substantial dent in the need for affordable housing in our community. Many people in this audience tonight have spent years and countless hours attempting to assist in this endeavor, and I appreciate their efforts. Members of the Citizens Group attended last Monday's Eastham Board of Selectmen meeting, where Town Administrator Sheila Vanderhoff relayed the details of the meeting between the town planner, herself, and Richard Hayden of Stratford Capital. The basic elements she mentioned were a reduction in units to 50, but only using 50% of the site, and that all units would be available as affordable at 60% of AMI and 30% of AMI. An application to the ZBA has not been filed, but we all know the other half of the land won't stay vacant for long if we fail to act. Maybe we might only look to purchase half. In March, the citizens group went before the Board of Selectmen and received a 3-2 vote of our article. Recently, Bill O'Shea informed us that he is in support of the motion before you. Now the support is 4-1. Our motion before you tonight allows the town to raise and appropriate up to $1.4 million for land acquisition. This could be less. In negotiations with Stratford, the current holder of a purchase and sale can be altered, amended, or replaced for some portion of the parcel. This would allow the town to work with Stratford on design, style, and the height of buildings. The best construction style and the type that fits Eastham, not Stratford Capital. The best possible use of the balance of the land, which could be used for recreation and economic development, two things we desperately need. Traffic and density can be minimized by planning. The town of Eastham has an opportunity to control this process. The citizens group has been pushing for a controlled process and local control. The Tea Time parcel affords the town the opportunity to plan development, which could and should be additional recreational opportunities for young and old. The Recreation Commission voted to support our Article 5-0. Stratford Capital is a private equity company and developer. Developers are in business to make money. I certainly have no problem with that, and this is part of the American way. The people of this town can vote to raise and appropriate this money, which in some way will lessen the cost of whatever Stratford proposes to do, and we can work it out with them going forward. But if we authorize no money tonight, we don't have to spend a dime if the Board of Selectmen don't like the avenue in which it goes. But if we don't authorize any funding, then we can't negotiate down the road. And I know as a private equity firm,
Mr. Kerry, you have 30 seconds left.
Okay. Many of you have questions such as, what will this cost? The cost of the debt exclusion at $1.4 million would be approximately $17 per taxpayer based on a residence value of $425,000. So tonight I ask you to vote in favor of this article along with 4 members of the Board of Selectmen and my fellow citizens group members. An affirmative vote will allow the town the possibility of partnering in the goal to bring additional affordable housing while keeping our community special and making all citizens there part of our future. With any questions, I can take through the moderator.
Exactly the time. Thank you very much. I understand that Chairman Gorin would like to speak to this motion.
Thank you. I would just like to ask the voters to consider the following before they press the button yes or no on this article. First, there is no town plan at this time for the specific public purposes of the Tea Time property. I understand that it was important to remove the language for eminent domain, and I was pleased to see that, but any taking or attempt to take that property or subvert the current contracting would be indefensible based on advice from our council. Number two, $1.4 million with the additional cost over time to taxpayers of another $441,000. That's a lot of money, especially when you consider the town already has large debt for water, library, as well as capital maintenance and other replacement. Number three, I will repeat that this property is under contract, an option to purchase by a private developer who has responded to the concerns raised by the community and has amended the original plan and reduced the proposed development from 130 rental units, affordable rental units, to 50 units. The developer has rights under the agreement, and he has advised the town that he will vigorously defend any attempt to usurp that site control. Should the article pass and the town pursue this property, there would be serious legal costs to the town for that. This has come forward as an issue about affordable housing, and it definitely is an important, critical issue in this town. We have moved forward on the Purcell property, and I was glad to see that go forward. We have a private developer willing to invest and pick up the cost from private equity to develop 50 more units of affordable housing, and I really don't think that we should prevent that private plan from proceeding, and we should let it take its own course We have next year to revisit this. If there's an issue of half the property being available to purchase at maybe some negotiated price, that certainly could work. But we have a lot of time between now and when the proposals are at tea time, the plans are submitted and approved, and the first shovel goes in the ground. I think voting to appropriate those funds tonight would be a mistake.
Thank you. The Finance Committee voted against recommending the approval of this article. The minority wishes to speak to this motion, represented by Amy Ekman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The 3 members of the Finance Committee who voted in favor of this article did so because we feel the town should have control over future developments in our community. A developer has recently approached the town with a plan to place a high-density, affordable rental complex on this same parcel, but the plan does not reflect the needs laid out in our town's own housing production plan. Unless our town owns this property, we have very little control in how it is to be developed under the 40B guidelines. A great deal of interest has been shown regarding the recent RFP released for the Purcell property. The plan for the Purcell property has income guidelines that more closely reflect the actual needs of our citizens. And isn't that what we should all want? The needs of our citizens should outweigh the desire for large developments that are created simply for profit by the developer. No one on this committee is opposed to affordable housing, and neither is this specific article. In fact, passage of this article gives the town a voice in creating something that will benefit our entire community with a plan that is sensitive to our specific needs and interests. Please join us in voting yes.
Thank you. I now recognize Mr. Autorino, who is designated to speak for the Finance Committee majority, which voted against approval of this article. Mr. Autorino.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As Steve said, the majority of the Finance Committee voted against this article. There are a number of reasons for that. One was that though we felt the purchaser's property may provide the ability to control the development on it, economic development, either by a government or a private company, is an extremely complex, expensive, time-consuming process in which the town of Eastham has limited experience and really a lack of resources. Towns which do take on economic development normally have a dedicated economic development staff, which is something we don't. We felt the expenditure of $1.4 million without a specific plan for the property adds to the citizens' tax burden with no identifiable benefit. The proposed development of the Purcell property was just issued recently, though the property was purchased years ago. It seems prudent for us to wait and see the results of that project before attempting another one. The town already owns a number of vacant properties. Adding this one, and they don't generate tax revenue, adding another property to that takes it off the tax roll. There are a number of large capital projects that are already underway, for example, water. Adding more, this demand of resources particularly stretches our ability and complicates our ability to complete those on time and within budget. Purchase of the property at this time is really, this purchase of the property at this time is really driven by an attempt to block the Stratford Capital Group. Though the premises of the article are laudable, the need for affordable housing in Eastham is critical. And to block a potential solution in the initial phase without an alternative solution to the issue seems misguided. We felt that we should wait and see the outcome of the current negotiations between Stratford and the town. rather than, to say, okay, we're going to drop this. We have a developer, and we're going to say, no, we're going to buy it, and we'll go find another development. Just didn't seem prudent. So we would recommend that you vote against this article.
Thank you, Mr. Ordorino. I'm going to recognize Ms. Nudell, who's at the question microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bonnie Newendel, 255 Meeting House Road. Mr. Moderator, I would like to direct a question to each of the selectmen who voted to recommend this article. When Eastham already owns and has owned for over 10 years 500 acres of land, why did you vote to purchase more?
Would any of the selectmen wish to answer that question?
I'd like to hear from them all if they're willing.
Well, I asked that question, Ms. Nudell. Mr. Adams?
The selectmen did not put this on the warrant. This was a petition article, and we were asked if we would back it, and that's why I voted the way I did.
Would anyone else like to address the question?
The proposal that Hayden has was way out of whack for our town.
That's an opinion. Thank you.
Ms. Nudell. Anyone else? I'm going to start with the yes mic.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ellen Sullivan. I live at 125 Seaward Way. I am for this article because I think that local control is desirable. I'm concerned about Stratford Development's plans. I don't think those concerns have been adequately addressed by Mr. Hayden or Stratford. I've seen very, very little information disseminated to the citizens. On the surface, it sounds like a great idea to have a big developer come in and put in an affordable housing development, but people need to understand the details of it, and it's very complicated, very, very complicated. It's not just a matter of somebody coming in and building a nice apartment building and making it available to folks who need it. This would be a high-density project, meaning many, many people put into a small amount of space. There are a lot of questions that have been raised and not adequately answered about who those people would be and where they would be from. Would this housing be available to locals? A lot of it would not be, from my understanding and my research into it. Other concerns have to do with traffic problems that the project would create. That has not been adequately addressed. My understanding is...
Excuse me one second. May I remind all of the voters that the discussion here is about Article 31 and not about the Stratford plan. If you want to generally make comments about the impact of this article on the Stratford plan, you're welcome to do it, but we're discussing Article 31, not the details of the so-called Stratford plan. Please go ahead.
It's hard to avoid those
Well,
with this
do your
discussion.
best, please. Do your best.
Well, I think that that's a disingenuous request, but I will proceed. I think that we need local control so that we can address the real needs of Eastham, the real needs of affordable housing in Eastham. I do not believe an outside developer who has no local interest in our community will be able to adequately address that. And I think that if we take control of it by purchasing the property, that would be something we could more readily do. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to address the first person at the no mic, then I'll come to you.
Thank you,
Please.
Mr. Moderator. My name is Michael Hager, and I live at 115 Shady Lane in Eastham. I am an at-large member of the Community Preservation Committee, but I'm speaking on my own behalf. The first point I think all of us can agree on. The housing production plan makes very clear that affordable housing is a vital priority. So there's no disagreement, I think, between the nays and the yays on that point. The question I would raise, and I think Selectman Galvin adverted to it, has to do with timing. We have now an interested developer, and we know that in other towns around the Cape and around all of Massachusetts that public-private partnerships are the only way that affordable housing can be sustainable. We cannot do it by supporting individual houses here and there. There needs to be a certain cohesiveness of the lodging. The point is, we have a developer who has withdrawn his proposal at present, but he's made very clear that he will come back to us in the fall with a new proposal, and hopefully it will address some of the very valid concerns that have been pointed to. We don't know if that will happen or not, and of course there will be debate and discussion. The proposal may or may not pass as it goes forward. If it does not pass, the very resolution that's been put forward, the motion put forward, is a possibility then for next year. But I think to do this now means that we're going to tax the citizens of Eastham when we could be getting the added advantage of private funding and other federal and state funding that are typically part of these public-private partnerships. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. I will recognize Mr. Fenlon at the question mic.
My name is Fred Fenlon. I live at 40 Baldwin Road in Northeastham. I have a question. Much has been said about the 10% requirement for affordable housing. Eastham is nowhere near that, but what I don't know and would like to know is what is the penalty or punishment if Eastham doesn't get the 10%?
Ms. Vander
Mr. Moderator, the penalty within the law is simply that should a developer come and insist on a development, that you have less credibility at the Housing Appeals Court to fight that. They can impose upon you the development. If you have the 10%, you can fight it, and they don't impose upon you a development. So it again comes down to the issue of sort of control and, playing the odds.
All the more reason to vote yes for this.
Okay. Ms. Ford at the yes mic.
My name is Patricia Ford. I live at 10 Gull Lane, and I am asking you to vote in support of petitioned Article 31. And there's no doubt that a supermajority of people in Eastham want affordable housing, and they want it done as quickly as possible. The argument, and it's a vehement argument, has been over which path to take. And when I first heard about this, proposed plan, not the purchase, but the 40B that's going about tea time, I thought, how 1970s? And it is. It's a plan. This model is from the 70s. Big earth-moving, profitable, efficient in the sense that it warehouses a lot of people, but inefficient and financially because it's costing between $250 and $300 a square foot. The problem is, since that time, since the 70s, there's been all kinds of new ways to build sustainable green technologies, smaller units, multi-use buildings. And the town that adopts these and wants to go this way, which I think the citizens group wants to do, is the town that's going to be more dynamic and more viable in the future and attract young people and attract small businesses. And the way it is now, we're warehousing the most unfortunate people in town are financially in one area, and then leaving the Purcell property for the little bit better affordable housing. So the people in town are split by their financial resources and geographically sent to one area or the other, depending on, and that just strikes me as horrible, dystopian. And yes, there's a lot to ask. There's a lot going on financially in Eastham right now with the water, and it is difficult to ask people to take this extra step at this time. But if we don't invest in new ideas, if we put up a dated, old school, old style warehouse of people, the town will be the loser. We could bring Eastham ahead of the curve and come up with new plans and new ideas and new ways to put this affordable housing using granny pods, small house developments, multiple use buildings, and other things. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schrofer.
I'm Dave Schrofer, 311 South Sunken Meadow Road. I first want to say that my remarks will be short and somewhat because I so strongly support what Chairman Garin and the Vice Chairman of the Finance Committee, Arterino, had to say. But I want to put some facts in front of you that are important. One is that the signs that litter our town saying support this have as the main reason control. The person or the organization, Stratford Capital, has already submitted a revised plan. They haven't waited till the fall, and that plan has 50 units, I'm told, and also uses only half of the property. Their design that I've seen has basically housing that looks a lot like our houses. They are larger, they are 2.5 stories, but they basically are inconsistent with the town. They are, we have 1.9% of the so-called 10% that we're supposed to have in affordable housing. Purcell has sat for 15 years or 14 years since it was passed by this town meeting and has not been able to come up with affordable housing. However, on May 4th, I'm told that we have received some bids responding to our request for proposal, and that those bids would be open to affordable housing that the town could approve. The company that owns this property now, called Ahold, a British company actually, can charge anything they want for that property. If for some reason Stratford decides to move away, they can charge $5 million, $7 million, $10 million. They have a restriction in the property that does not allow food stores, so they have no competition. They own Stop and Shop. The cost of this is $1.4 million. To you, that means $260 of your money, $262 there, as shown on the back of this page 37, $1.4 million at least to the town, and we'll also lose the taxes. There's almost $10,000 a year. If over the next 15 years, that's how long it took to get Purcell active, that's $150,000 more. I don't want to see that money spent, and I'm very concerned that the word control means no 40B. We have what's called a friendly 40B. There's another type, an unfriendly 40B. The people who put that proposal to us have written a letter that has been received by the selectmen, and it says on the very last paragraph, we intend to completely and fully enforce our rights to this property. We have a buy-sell agreement, and we're going to defend it. That means lawsuits.
Please wrap up, Mr. Schrofer.
And that means more money. So I encourage you to let the situation go as it is and vote no.
Thank you. Let me recognize gentleman at the question mic.
Ed Boschman, Massasoit Road. I have a quick question to the selectmen. It says 3-2 in favor, yes and no. I'd like to know who voted yes and who voted no.
Why doesn't the chair just summarize the vote for the questioner?
I understand your question is who voted in favor of
Correct. It says 3-2.
putting this on the
Correct.
Who voted to recommend approval of the article is the question, I believe.
Correct.
I voted yes to put it on the warrant so that it would get out in front of the people. And I've told everybody all along that we're pro and con on it. I have been following the Purcell property since the day we bought it, and I favored nothing for affordable housing, affordable rental, until we had something done with the Purcell. But this deserves to be out in front of the people. It's your money.
Thank you.
Because I voted no. I was the other no vote on that vote. And then after discussions with the group, the citizens group, when they agreed to take out the eminent domain clause, which I was very concerned about getting us in a legal thing. I agreed not to oppose this. We haven't re-voted, so there's been no change in vote, but I agreed to not oppose it.
Thank you. Okay. Let me have another question.
James Badera, 14 LDOA. We recently had a Water Protection Act before us that will preserve the quality of the water. And from my understanding, by looking at the map, these properties are within that district now. Now, given the fact that we know the gradient of the water will head toward, from this property toward our town wells, was there any consideration to protect the water so that we don't have the intensity on this property of those many units and how it will affect our groundwater?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
The problem is we don't have a proposal. We have discussions, but we don't have a proposal, so we don't know for a fact the location of the wastewater disposal plant and what it's going to look like. We don't know the density or the location of the houses. We have an estimate of what might be there. So until we know those things, our ability to then condition the proposal through the Zoning Board of Appeals, conditions can be imposed that will recognize the fragility of the land and its proximity to our municipal wells. So that's how that gets resolved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go back to the yes mic now. Mr. French.
Russ French, 725 Campground Road. I'm on the FinCom. I voted for this, and I just want to briefly tell you why I did vote for it. Number one, I think, as does the Board of Selectmen, and I think most of the FinCom, that affordable housing is the #1 priority for this town. Number two, we're in a process of negotiations, and the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator need every piece of leverage that they can get in order to negotiate the best deal for this town. And that would be to have in their back pocket the potential to spend the $1.4 million for that property. It doesn't mean they're going to do it, but that they have the potential, and it puts them in a better negotiating position with Stratford or anybody else. So I think it's very important that we do vote for it and give them as much leverage as they need. I feel very strongly that they will use this in a very proper manner. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to the yes mic now. Ms. Blum.
Adele Blonde, 115 Kingsbury Beach Road.
Please put it closer to your mouth. You can't be heard.
I would if I could.
Okay.
Okay. Adele Blonde, 115 Kingsbury Beach Road. A comment was made earlier that the RFP for Purcell comes closer to the housing production plan goals than the Stratford proposal. That is because the housing production plan addresses far more than what we generally refer to as affordable housing. Individuals with income below 80% or 60% or 30% of the median income. It also addresses general housing production in the town, increased housing, including market rate housing. And the reason that the Purcell proposal is closer to that, the housing production plan, is because it includes in the RFP provisions for local market rate as well as affordable housing. That is also why no one can say at this point how many units of the Purcell property will be affordable housing, because up to 60% of those units under the RFP are allowed to be local market rate, not affordable housing. So we don't know at this point to what extent the Purcell, assuming there are acceptable Purcell bids, to what extent those Purcell bids will help move us closer to the housing production plan goal of 200 additional affordable housing units within 5 years. That is your housing plan that was just approved. The history of the Roach and Purcell properties gives us some clue as to how long we could wait to see something happen with this land if it is in fact purchased as this article suggests. Yes, there's an RFP for Purcell now. Purcell was purchased 15 years ago. The Roach property was purchased 19 years ago. We've heard a lot about local control, and I think we all generally think local control is a good thing. But I would suspect all of us know it is also not always a good thing. It depends on how it is exercised. And it is a good thing when it is exercised with concern for and recognition of the needs of all of the members of our community. Also, keep in mind, this is not local control by you and me. Once you pass this article, the local control sits with the Board of Selectmen. You have nothing more to say about what happens. It is totally up to them. There is no further input from town meeting about what happens with their authority to spend close to $2 million.
You have 15 seconds to go.
Sorry?
15 seconds, please.
Okay. Well, I'll just add, we have local control. It's called zoning. In 2014, by a vote of 8-2, you passed the North Eastham Overlay District, which applies to any use made of the land at tea time. And a lot of people are saying, well, $2 million isn't a lot. I've heard a lot of palaver over a lot less. But in any case, big dollars or small dollars, how we choose to spend our money says a lot about who we are.
Please wrap up now. Thank you. Go back to the question, Mike.
Charles Sullivan, 125 Seawood Way. My question is, in the revised Stratford proposal of 50 units and 5 acres, who owns the other 5 acres? And what's to prevent Stratford a year or 2 or 3 down the road from putting 50 more units in there?
Would you like to respond to that? Ms. Vanderhoff.
Mr. Moderator, the Stratford proposal that is being discussed, and this is not in the hard plan stage, it's just discussions we've had with him, suggests 50 units on half of the land. It does not tell us what the other half of the land would be used for. In the proposal, he's just left it vacant for now.
Who owns it?
He's buying the entire 10.8 acres, so he would own.
So if the town went ahead and went with that, there'd be no reason he couldn't come back and say, we're going 50 more or we're going 100 more.
That is correct.
Thank you.
I'll go to the yes mic now, Mr. Nickerson.
Yes. Yes, Nathan Nickerson, Briggsfield Road, Eastham, Mass. And I just want to turn the mic because I want to talk to my people. These are my people.
But please continue speaking into the mic.
Yes, okay. Very briefly, very short. Keep in mind that Selectman Garon told you that right now they're talking about 50 units on 5 acres, which, if I'm doing the math right, would be 100 units on 10 acres. And that, to me, if 400 people, give or take, will be living in 10 acres of land, which is like 40 people per acre. I want you to know that I don't want to drive by, look over there and say, that's Eastham's affordable housing, because that's what it is. I thought affordable housing, what we're trying to do is sprinkle it in amongst all of us. So you won't point to that and say, that's where the poor people live. So yeah, we're buying this. The article is to protect Eastham. It isn't to discourage affordable housing at all. We're all for affordable housing. God, we need it badly. But we need to be smart about it. And if it has taken 10 or 20 years for Eastham to come up with decent affordable housing that we can be proud of, I don't think that's a long time in the history of time. I mean, 20 years is nothing. It's a flash in the pan. We need to do this correctly. We need to use our brains, not our heart, and vote for this article so that we have control. And it's not left to a developer's good graces That plan that I saw is bad. I don't like that plan at all. I think it's a very bad plan. Everyone has their opinion, that's fine, but I hope that you'll vote for this article for the sake of Eastham. I don't want Eastham. I don't want to go by and see and point out, my friends, that's where the low-income people live. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the question mic. Question mic now, please.
Lisa Radke, 415 Meeting House Road. This has been discussed ad nauseum at many, many meetings, and I think most people coming in here tonight have already made up their mind. So with that, I call the question.
I think there's been a considerable amount of discussion on both sides, and I'm going to honor the request to move to call the question. It needs 2/3 majority to end debate. So the question before you now is whether debate should be ended on this motion. Okay, please be prepared to vote. And remember, press 1 to end debate, 1 for yes, and 2 for no, not to end debate. A 2/3 majority is required for approval. You have 30 seconds to vote after the blue light goes on. The blue light is on, you may vote. The voting period is over. Yes, 486, no, 57. The question has been called, debate is ended. We'll now proceed to a vote on the motion. A yes vote would allow the town to acquire the so-called Tea Time property by purchase, gift, and/or grant. A no vote would not authorize this acquisition. Please prepare to vote, and remember, 1 for yes and 2 for no. A 2/3 majority is required for approval. You have 30 seconds to vote after the blue light goes on. You may vote. The voting period is over. Yes, 321, no, 228. Does not have a 2/3 majority. The motion fails. Article 32. I will recognize Mr. Johnson, the lead petitioner for Article 32. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Tom Johnson, Herringbrook Road. I move that the town amend Section 100 of the Town of Eastham bylaws to add a new Article 3. Each town employee requiring email, all elected officials, and all appointed board members shall be provided an email account within the town electronic mail system, and said account will be used for all official correspondence of the town.
Thank you. Is there a second? The motion has been made and seconded. Mr. Johnson, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. State law requires us to keep a copy of all emails sent between all town employees, all elected officials, and all people on town boards. At the moment, we have no way of doing that. Everybody uses personal accounts, and if those get deleted or destroyed, the town is in violation of state law. It costs approximately $200 a year to provide email address for all of the town employees. We have $165,000 in the data processing budget, so that $200 will not impact that budget at all.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the floor? We'll take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes. Article 33, I will again recognize Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move to indefinitely postpone Article 33.
Is there a second? Did I hear a second? Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, this article was put on to make sure that in case the Hay Road articles did not pass, that the people who needed access and needed a safe way had a way to do it. But since the article has passed, that takes care of the safety issue. Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions from the floor? Seeing none, let's vote this by voice. It needs a majority to pass. Yes vote indefinitely postpones. A no vote keeps the motion on the table. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Motion passes. The motion to indefinitely postpone passes. Article 34. Who's doing Article 34?
I move that the town vote to accept published reports.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
I move that this town meeting be dissolved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is dissolved.